Welcome into the Hard Count, the People's College Football Show. It is Thursday, already July 10th, 2025. Last one on the face of the planet. It's a holiday for a lot of y'all that waited patiently and with good intentions and with a patient heart for College Football 26 to finally drop. Right, that day is today. Both myself and Caden Smith have played the game, so we'll react to that at the end of today's show. We got a ton to get into. Let's start right here. Let's waste no more time before we jump into this first topic. Who has the most potential in college football? You're saying, JD, you just did that segment last show. Am I watching a rerun? Nope. Your podcast is in the right place. Your YouTube machine's in the right place. We got so many comments in our comment section to our last most potential video saying you missed this guy, you missed that guy. So we're going to do a continued edition of who has the most potential in college football. And probably the number one complaint we got in the comment section was, JD, where's DJ Lagway? I'm like, yeah, you're 110% right, dude. DJ Lagway, I think, is poised to have a massive year in 2025, especially if what you saw at the end of last season ends up translating to be reality from 2025 at the beginning of the season all the way through. Because there's a lot of things he did last year that just kind of felt action figure-ish. The numbers don't tell the whole story. He made a couple of throws where you just kind of do the eyebrow raise, say, well, okay, that's different. Haven't seen something like that at quarterback here in Gainesville in quite a few minutes. And I love that. That part speaks for itself. But to me, not just the action figure stuff, it's the composure that this guy showed at different critical spots last year for Florida. Remember, when he got the keys to the job at Florida, Florida was not rocking and rolling offensively. It wasn't like Florida was in this tremendous place when it came to how they were going to finish out 2025. There was this new vote of confidence for Billy Napier from the powers that be at Florida. But, again, Florida was not working with a lot of momentum. And that game against Tennessee, I think, tells us everything we need to know about how this guy's wired. 3rd and 18. You already know where I'm going with this if you're a Florida fan. 3rd and 18. Neyland's rocking. Down by 7. 38 seconds and counting. 37. 36. Snaps the ball. Steps up in the pocket. Feels the rush. Throws a absolute laser to Shamir DK. Ties up the game. That's not true freshman kind of stuff. To be making plays like that in that spot against that opponent in that stadium. Now, I don't care if Florida lost that game. That, to me, said, okay, this dude's going to be a problem here for the foreseeable future. If he can stay healthy, major caveat, if he can stay healthy, Florida's got a game changer at quarterback. DJ Lagway, tons of potential. Here's one that I think needs a little bit more buzz. Decorian Moore, freshman wide receiver at Oregon, was an early enrollee, number one wide receiver in his class for pretty much, I think, just about every single outlet. Now, hear me clearly. I think with Evan Stewart being injured, and you hope and pray Evan Stewart gets back sooner rather than later, if you're an Oregon fan, I think Decorian Moore is going to be the best wide receiver on this football team. That's not to knock Malik Benson, not to knock Casper. They got a lot of good players, but Decorian Moore just has that it factor to him. All right, he made a couple of plays in that spring game that, just what I said with DJ Lagway, you kind of raise your eyebrows and say, okay, that's not a true freshman kind of play that he just made, where he's tightroping the sideline, contorting his body. Also, in that spring game, it should be noted how often early that they were going to Decorian Moore. Now, I know it's a spring game, so you don't want to take too much from a glorified practice, but I think spring games are kind of a peek inside as to what's going on behind closed doors. All the overall attitude towards Decorian Moore in that game told me there's confidence towards that true freshman and told me they have confidence in him because he's been making those plays behind closed doors out there in Eugene. Now, I'm super curious to see how they utilize him, because the thought with Evan Stewart was he was finally going to be playing in position in that slot wide receiver role, which Tez Johnson made a killing at. With him not being in the lineup, you would imagine, does Decorian Moore shift into the slot? And if he is in the slot, and that's at least, it feels like a walking 70 reception kind of year for anyone who ends up playing that role. Tez Johnson, I think, had 80 catches 2 years in a row. Decorian Moore's got the it factor, all right? And he's going to be a baller for them this year. I'll stand on that. I think he's going to be the best receiver on that team when it's all said and done. Notice I said receiver. I'm still very high on Kenyon Sadiq, who plays tight end, but receiver, Decorian Moore, I think is going to be your best one for the Ducks. Dylan Raiola. Yeah, I don't think we've even seen his best stuff yet, which isn't saying a lot because he was a true freshman last year as well. But what I love so much about Dylan Raiola going into 2025 is just everything around him is better. All right, got the Adidas deal, so the money's probably better. Got a better offensive line by how they attacked the portal. Got better wide receivers by how they went and got the portal guys right that way. Also with Dane Key, you have an offensive coordinator now who is what I would say he speaks quarterback fluently with Dana Holgorsen. You saw a massive difference in just the overall composure of a Dylan Raiola from the time that Dana Holgorsen started calling the offense last year to when they finished with that bowl game. The fact that you now have a system that you can build for Dylan Raiola with Dana Holgorsen, not going from the old offense, trying to piece it together with old verbiage and just make it all work on the fly, I think that he's in for a really big year. We have a Nebraska record prediction for you later in the show. Stick around. But I think that he's going to be in for a very big year here in 2025. Speaking of big years, Notre Dame's passing game also, I think, has a ton of potential. It feels like to me that Mike Denbrock last year was just kind of making it work with Riley Leonard. Not knocking Riley Leonard. He had a great year last year. I mean, the first drive that he had in the national title game, when they finished that game, like nothing bad to say about Riley Leonard. However, if you know Mike Denbrock's offense, you know he would like to throw it a little bit more. That number that I think he wants to be at is right around 30 attempts a game. Hadn't been at that since he got to South Bend. Now with CJ Carr being your quarterback and this wide receiver room, I think he's got the ingredients to get the saucer out a little bit, get the frying pan out, and like kind of get cooking on the stove here. The big thing with them is I think that with their personnel, they can now truly attack you at all levels. Last year it was a lot of, can they manufacture something and play action? Can they just get it to a guy in space and let him create something explosive? But with what they have in that receiver room now, Jaden Greathouse, he's proven he can be a deep threat guy for you. Underneath, you got Faison and Will Pauling. Outside, you got Malachi Fields, who's all of 6'4", 223. They can attack you at all levels of the field. They got a quarterback who can get it to all levels of the field. I think that, again, plays a lot more into the scheme that Mike Denbrock wants to run. And then just the cherry on top of all this, you got a running back out of the backfield who can be just as dynamic with what he can be for you in that pass game, in addition to setting things up with the run. So Notre Dame's pass game was like 7 yards a pass last year in the 70s when it comes to their national ranking. They will be, I think, substantially better here in 2025 under CJ Carr and with that improved wide receiver room. Just as a team overall, is there a situation in college football that is better positioned to make a run than Clemson? And forget the ACC part of it for a second. I don't think we understand how truly talented this Clemson football team is. Todd McShay is, I think, one of the best in the business. Not I think, I know. It's pretty well understood, one of the best in the business when it comes to projecting for NFL talent. He put out a way too early mock draft for 2026, and it is way too early. There's still a lot that has to happen. But purely based on that way too early mock draft, he had 4 Clemson players going in the top 10. He had 6 Clemson players going in the first round. I don't care what conference you're from. I don't care what logo's on your helmet. That's ridiculous. Like that's the Georgia kind of territory. That's the Ohio State kind of territory. Clemson playing in the ACC is about to wreck shop, and it's not just a talent. It's experienced talent. It's guys that have played a lot of football. So there's a veteran presence paired with the talent. Clemson, it's all right there for you, man. If you want to get back to the days where you're hoisting national championship trophies, there's nothing on that roster, on paper, that should hinder you from getting that done. Last one here, Oklahoma's backfield. We mentioned Texas A&M's backfield in the last show, and I got to thinking about Oklahoma and what they have back there. I think that just the versatility they have is second to none between Jade Knott and John Mateer. Like there's that song from the Mannequin Challenge, Black Beatles, Ray Shrimmerd, get you somebody who can do both. Get you a backfield that can do pretty much everything. If you want to run the option, Jade Knott, John Mateer. I haven't played with them yet in College Football 26, but I bet they're nasty. You can just do the design run game with a John Mateer in the quarterback run game. You can obviously call the run game for Jade Knott. You can throw it with a Jade Knott and put pressure on defense that way. You can use Jade Knott as a decoy. You can use John Mateer's legs as a decoy. There's so many levels to what they do in this offense that will elevate everyone else's game and will force defenses to have to make resource decisions. Oklahoma's backfield is set up to be, I think, one of the most dynamic in all of college football. Potential coming out their ears out there in Norman, Oklahoma. So get us in the comment section. Let us know who we missed. But those are, I think, some of the teams, players, and units that have the most potential in college football here ahead of 2025. Now, this is a fun segment that I think we need to do probably every single year. We're going to attack it right now. Who are the sleepers for each of the Power 4 conferences for the 2025 college football season? So we're just attacking the Power 4 right now. Maybe we'll show some love to the G5 in the future in a segment like this. But who are the teams that you don't really see coming but could absolutely factor into the college football playoff and, dare I say, win the conference? Now, we're not making our prediction for these teams right now, just full disclaimer. But let's start in the SEC. Man, A&M, is there a more polarizing team in college football than A&M? Because everyone has their take. Texas 8-4. Haven't won anything. They won all these recruiting national championships. That they, put up the blank national title trophy for Jimbo Fisher when they hired him. Like, they're a cult. They got the whole yell leader stuff. There's a lot of jokes flying around A&M. But when I look at A&M in 2025, I feel a lot of sentiments that end with, I'm just saying, like number 6 in returning production in college football. I'm just saying. A game away from playing for the SEC championship last year. They were in a game with Texas, that final game of the regular season. If they beat Texas, they would have played Georgia, had a chance to go to the dance. Again, just saying, Mike Elko's first year, got a quarterback back who you kind of got adjusted on the fly, it felt like last year. You built the whole system for Connor Wegman, and then Connor Wegman evidently isn't your guy around the LSU game. You go with Marcel Reed, and you're trying to put it all together. Just saying, you had a whole offseason now for him. Got a head coach who I think has everything that they've been missing, both culturally, toughness, dare I say, just like the overall attitude he has, I think matches up well with A&M as an overall outfit, both the school and the football team. Really good backfield, Le'Veon Moss. When he's healthy, I think he's one of the best backs in all of college football, not just the SEC. Oh, by the way, Ruben Owens, too, we've talked about. If he's healthy, I think there's a lot of talent and potential for him there. Just saying. I'm just saying, A&M, I don't know if you pick them in the SEC, but if you're picking sleeper teams, A&M deserves some love. Now in the Big Ten, I think Michigan is super intriguing as a sleeper team. A lot of good candidates you can go with in that conference, whether it be USC or Illinois, but I'm going with Michigan. They won so many fights last year with a pocket knife. You know what I mean? Just like, doesn't matter. We'll play Ohio State and win throwing double-digit passing yards. We'll beat Alabama, same deal, double-digit passing yards. Who's our quarterback? I don't know. We'll figure it out, dude. We'll run the football, we'll play good defense, win a rock fight. Doesn't matter how we get it done. We're going to get it done. And so you had that last year, but this upcoming year, you took the pocket knife, and I don't know what pawn shop you went to make this happen, but you exchanged it for a samurai sword. You got Bryce Underwood now playing quarterback for you, who I said this and I'll say it again, could be the most physically gifted quarterback they've ever had in Ann Arbor. Full stop. Got Chip Lindsey running the show, who I think his offense will cater a lot more to Bryce Underwood's skill set with the more spread kind of option stuff that you can do with him. You have a running back room and Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall. That stays the same. Donovan McCulley. We're just naming names now in terms of people they have to make something happen for them offensively. But the defense, I think, the confidence stays the same with what that outfit's going to be under Wink Martindale. So what's the path for Michigan to be a team that not just is a sleeper but wakes some people up? If they split the games at Oklahoma and at Nebraska, that puts them in a spot I would have to believe to where they play at USC. And if they beat USC, you're 5-1 with Washington and Ohio State as your only true talent tests you have the rest of the way. If I'm a Michigan fan, all I'm saying is get us to November with 1 or 2 losses, get us to Ohio State, and we'll take care of it from there. Get Ohio State into Ann Arbor, Michigan, lock the gates, and we'll make sure we handle business from that point forward. I don't think it has to make sense to anybody outside of those 4 walls in Ann Arbor. They have all the confidence in the world, I think, internally, and they have a lot more, I think, reason for confidence if you're watching Michigan as a casual college football fan this year based on what they have on that roster. In the ACC, I need y'all to stick with me here. I told you this is a sleeper segment. This is like NyQuil level sleeper. This is deep REM, lucid dreaming kind of sleeper. All right, it's not Louisville. It's Pitt. Pitt is tied for the 8th best odds to win the conference. They're behind teams like Florida State, who won 2 games last year. They're behind a school in Duke where you need a 34 ACT to probably get into college there. If you're behind Duke, you are a deep sleeper in the world of college football right now. It's not knocking Manny Diaz in the last year. We're having some fun, but you hear what I'm saying. Eli Holstein, when he was healthy for them last year, when he was playing football, Pitt was 7-3. They were undefeated going into November. They're going to score points now. They just extended Cade Bell, who I think is one of the best offensive coordinators, one of the best young offensive coordinators in the sport. No Clemson, no SMU on the schedule. They host Louisville, and they host Miami. They host Miami late in the year. So at that point, you got your eye on the ball, and you're playing Miami with some high stakes. I would not doubt the Fighting Pat Narduzzi's. If you're picking sleepers in the ACC, Pitt might not be a bad way to roll. Now in the Big 12, I mean, dude, it's a full conference of sleepers. Like it's a dang slumber party out there in Big 12 country, man. TCU has the third best odds in the conference to win the Big 12, but there's like 5 other teams ahead of them. I think there's like 3 teams tied at plus 600, 2 teams tied at plus 650. TCU's at plus 800 to win the conference. The thing with TCU that I love, outside of bringing back Josh Hoover and all the offensive excitement with Sonny Dykes that you're going to have there, if it comes down to November yet again in the Big 12, and there's like 11 teams that can win the conference, TCU's schedule is relatively workable. Now, you do play Iowa State, but you get them at home. You're at BYU. Anybody know who's playing quarterback at BYU this year? Bueller. Yeah, that's what I thought. And then you finish at Houston and you play Cincinnati at home. 2 teams that did not make a bowl last year. So if it comes down to November and you're betting the quarterback, I feel pretty good about Hoover at TCU, and I feel pretty good about that slate to finish out the season. So the sleepers for us across the Power 4 in the SEC, everyone's got jokes about A&M. A&M this, A&M that, yellow to this, yellow to that. I'm just saying, a lot to have some confidence in. If I'm out there in Aggie land, in the Big Ten, Michigan won fights last year with a pocket knife. They got a freaking samurai sword. Get the NyQuil out for the ACC because I think Pitt is definitely one to watch. And then in the Big 12, you could pick any single team to be a sleeper there, but TCU is the one that I'll roll with as it stands right now for the Big 12 conference. So here's a fun conversation that sort of broke out towards the end of last year, right around conference title time. Texas plays Georgia in Austin for College Game Day, regular season. Every single person on the desk comes around. Texas. Give me Texas. Give me the Longhorns. Every single person picks Texas. And then Georgia wins that game in Austin. And that game was, I think, a testament to Kirby Smart and the overall just like traits of that football team and their grit and all those things. So Carson Beck did not play great, but neither did the Texas offense, to be frank. Like a lot of short fields. And so that game happens, and you kind of sit back and say, okay, well, how much do we really take from that game? Because, again, Georgia, I think, had one legitimate drive where they took it length of the field, and one of them was a trick play. So you say, okay, ball up top. They run it back in Atlanta. Same deal. Hand up. Fell for it, dude. Like, that's on your boy, man. Fell for it. Texas picked him again in the SEC title game. Did not break that way, but different game flow, right? I mean, Texas looked, statistically speaking, great in the pass game. They opened up, and Quinn Ewers was playing darts, and like, okay, hey, Texas, they might have something here, but Georgia finds a way to get it done in overtime, I believe it was, in Atlanta. Was that game in overtime, Cato? I see, yeah, in overtime. I'll blend together a little bit here. But so that kind of posed the question for some people. Does Texas have a Georgia problem? Some people started asking that. And as we unpack that right now, what does that actually mean? When people ask, does so-and-so have a such-and-such problem, it essentially comes down to the conversation of, for whatever reason, that logo gives us trouble. Do we have a problem with their logo? And the thing with me, man, like, I'm not even a little stitious. Like, I'm not. I'll break mirrors and laugh. I'll pet black cats. I'll step on cracks. Like, I'm not superstitious. I don't care. I don't believe that's even a real conversation you can have when it comes to how things work in the real world, much less college football, where you have grown men 11 on 11 hitting each other full force. Like, I don't think superstitious is really a thing you can talk about. So what I think that conversation is actually a disguise for is we don't match up well with them, is what it comes down to. We have a such and such problem. No, actually, you just can't stop the run, Ohio State. That's why you have a problem with Michigan. Well, no, we have a problem with Alabama. No, Nick Saban's just really good at adapting. And one year it's a rock fight and it's a game in the trenches. The next year they got a couple of Ferraris at wide receiver that you can't hang with. Like, that was kind of how that whole thing broke, right? And the thing about having a such and such problem, or when people say we have an X, Y, and Z problem relative to another football team, problems can be fixed. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about the last couple of years you've seen Michigan and Ohio State, because this is probably the most black and white example we have of this right now in college football. I think Ohio State fans, or people that watch the Ohio State-Michigan game, would say that Ohio State has a Michigan problem. They'd say that, right? Using the context of this conversation. Do they? Or did Jim Harbaugh, when he was there, just put in a lot of effort to adjusting their overall style of play to attack Ohio State and their weaknesses. Like Jim Harbaugh, when you think about what he was at Michigan, you think about, those last 3 they won against Ohio State. I get the third one, he wasn't on the sideline, but like Jim Harbaugh and his football teams won 3 in a row against Ohio State. Jim Harbaugh and his football teams are 3-5 against Ohio State. He lost 5 in a row before beating Ohio State. So I promise you, for a while there, they were saying, we have an Ohio State problem here at Michigan. No, Ohio State was just more talented, and you did not match up well in the secondary. They always had great wide receivers. You just got better on the back end, and you started to control the game more in line of scrimmage, and that's why it was the difference. So, like, for Georgia and Texas, going back to this conversation, I don't buy that Texas has a Georgia problem because I don't see a true matchup disparity when they play each other. Like, I don't see a situation where, like Georgia just beat them the same way both times. I don't see that. Also, from a talent level perspective, they recruit right about the same right now. Like Texas just wrapped up having the number 1 class in all of college football this most recent cycle. Like they're lifting in the same group when it comes to the kind of talent they're moving. All right, so it's not like there's this massive roster problem for either side, or that Georgia just keeps beating them because they're great in the trenches, or that Texas can't get past them on the back end. It's football, man. Also, I think it's a little bit early to have this conversation. It's a 2-game sample size in one season. If you were going to have a problem with another team, wouldn't it show itself over the course of several seasons with several different rosters, with several different staffs? We had 1 year, 2-game sample size. Kirby's the best in the game right now. As a coach, that is. Like, he's got a couple natties to prove it. I think it's a little bit early to say that Texas has a Georgia problem. But if you feel that way, what I just said a moment ago, if you really do feel that way, that Texas has a Georgia problem, problems can be fixed. Problems get fixed all the time. Ohio State, Michigan. Figure out how to run the football, change the game flow, and you end up having a couple of games that you win in a row yourself. I mean, Kirby Smart in Georgia. I know that it's not a great record against Saban all time, but like they found a way to fix their problems. National title game, you got one that counted in a big way in Indy over that Alabama team. Like, it's just problems get fixed is what I'm saying. And I think both these coaches, Smart and Sarkisian, I don't think either one of them will sit idle and let the other have this matchup advantage for the foreseeable future over the course of several years. So the other thing I'll say is the portal, if there is a problem there, makes it very easy to adjust more than ever before. So at the end of the day, us as college football fans, how should we view this game? If you're the average Florida State fan, you're a Colorado fan, or you're a Liberty fan, just enjoy that we get Texas, Georgia as the new it game in the SEC. Best rosters, from what I can gather, best coaches. Alabama will factor in the future. LSU will factor in the future. But I think we'll see Texas, Georgia for very high stakes here frequently over the course of the next few seasons based on how this whole thing is trending. All right, baby, it's July. You know what that means. Stretch out a little bit, get loose. Record prediction season time. All right, record prediction for your season. Let's go to Nebraska. We got Oregon and Nebraska on deck, but let's start with Nebraska. It's a very interesting conversation when you try to unpack what Nebraska is going to be here in 2025. Because you look at the last 2 years, you're like, kind of thought we'd get a little bit more out of Matt Rhule. If you're the average college football fan, maybe if you're a Nebraska fan, you feel that way. But when you hired Matt Rhule, this was always the year you had circled, wasn't it? Like year 3, death, taxes, and Matt Rhule doing his best work in year 3 is kind of how this whole thing shakes. Both at Temple and Baylor. He gets there, it's abysmal. I mean, it is atrocious what he walked into at both those institutions. Third year, though, what happens? Play for a conference title. So the reason why I think you can have excitement if you're a Nebraska fan for this third year, more specifically, the flashes you saw in year 2 where good things started to happen. Make a bowl game. Dylan Raiola, shows some promise down the field, and you see some excitement offensively. The win in the bowl game, all those things. Those flashes become a little bit more constant, a little bit more stable, becomes more of who you are as a football team. But there's a lot of people watching the show right now that'll say, we do this every year with Nebraska, don't we? Every year you tell us they're going to be something, and they end up being nothing. Not with Matt Rhule. Like, I'm assuming you're saying that going back to the Scott Frost era. I understand the records haven't been all that encouraging based on, the wins and losses, but the product itself, if you're actually watching Nebraska football, has gotten better every year. More physical, more disciplined. more dynamic offensively. Nebraska truly, if you're actually watching the game, they've gotten better as an overall product. I love two things going on in Nebraska right now: momentum and the pressure of not having to worry about that bowl drought anymore. Go back to momentum. Second-year quarterback that's as talented as you've had there in some time. A true OC that knows how to work with your quarterback. We said at the top of this show during a different segment, but I'll say it again. Dana Holgorsen, when he took over the offense, you saw a more confident Dylan Raiola. You saw a more definitive decision-making Dylan Raiola. You saw him elevate his game. I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence that his completion percentage went through the roof when Dana Holgorsen got the keys to the job. Different caliber of skill player, too. You're seeing it through the portal. Dane Key, over from Kentucky. Awesome. Ja'Cory Barney popped last year as a true freshman. He's back. Going to have, I think, improved numbers here in 2025 and this more open offense, you'd have to think. He won the bowl game. Just making the bowl game in itself was a monkey off the back, but to win the bowl game and now to settle that conversation of, well, it's been this many years. Okay, but it hasn't now. 0 days since our last nonsense. All right, Nebraska is now breathing different air and saying, that's behind us. Let's go actually win something besides a bowl game. All right? That's what I get excited about too. I said momentum and pressure off of that. When you're talking about getting to 6 wins, whether it's something that's being said out loud in the locker room or not, it's kind of a little bit of a weight vest, isn't it? You know what I'm saying? Like for that to be the pressure of, is this the year Nebraska wins a bowl game? It's got to be the year, got to be the year. You're not saying that anymore. Now you're saying, how many can we go win? Now you're saying, can we go compete for a conference title? Again, I don't know what the conversation exactly was in that locker room, but I have to believe it was somewhat a feeling if it wasn't said out loud. It definitely was said out loud within that fan base. But the question for me now in 2025 for them, the next step, if you will, can you separate from the middle class of the Big Ten? Like the Minnesotas of the world, the Michigan States of the world. Can you go make those games like just routine wins for you? If you can, then we start to get some momentum and good things start to happen. But you're not talking about 6 wins anymore. So we'll go game by game here, give you a take if it's going to be a win or going to be a loss. We, as always, reserve our right to change our mind week of. If we get to November and we think something different about the USC game, we'll give you our take. But at a bird's eye view, sitting here in July, let's break this thing down. First game, Cincinnati. You're in Arrowhead, so a little pseudo home game for Dylan Raiola. I think it's a win. Has to be a win. Has got to be a win for Nebraska. Has got to be a belief builder, momentum getter. Has to be a win. I think it is a win for Nebraska and Matt Rhule. You beat Akron. Move along. Houston Christian. Just draw the short end of the stick there. If you're Houston Christian, it's a win for Nebraska. You play Michigan in the Bussin' Bowl. I think this game is actually a good bit closer than whatever the spread's going to be, but I think Nebraska probably drops this one. I just think Michigan overall talent-wise is a touch ahead of where Nebraska is right now, so you lose that game. Get back on the right side of things, though. You beat Michigan State the next week. Sneaky stretch here on the road. At Maryland, at Minnesota. Notice, sneaky. You had the Michigan game behind you. You just got to win over Michigan State. You got to get both of these. I think they do get both, but you got to get both of these to end up at the final win total I have down here for the Cornhuskers and Matt Rhule. So you get both those. You beat Northwestern, and you play USC. I think USC offensively is going to be a bit more potent than Nebraska on this day, and I think also that the USC defense is going to take another step forward in their progress. Just love what they got going on out there. So I think that you lose that game, go to UCLA, right? So a nice little back-to-back here against the California schools. I think you beat UCLA. You go to Penn State. I think you lose that game to Penn State. How they look in that game, though, is going to be, I think, very telling as to the progress under Matt Rhule. Not just when it comes to the talent roster matchup, because Penn State's going to be, I think, more talented than they've been in the past year, or as talented as they've been under James Franklin in this game. But, like, just culturally speaking, at this point, you've already got 8 wins. Are you able to strain and push and show up in a spot where college football playoff probably isn't all that likely at this point, given just the overall lay of the land, you'd imagine, at this point with when one more game on the schedule after Penn State? But that'll tell us a lot. I think you lose that game, but I think it'll tell us a lot. You go to Iowa, man, close one last year. Close one last year against Iowa. I think you beat Iowa. So you look up at the final record, I got Nebraska popping up at 9-3. 9-3 for Nebraska after what last year was and the year before that. Yeah, in some ways you'd say it's a pretty big leap. Is it though? Because again, I told you the product's been better for a while. Dylan Raiola, you don't have to squint too hard to see him be a top-tier quarterback in the Big Ten, given his physical giftings, given the receiver room elevating, all those things I already said. I think this is the year where the culture under Matt Rhule stabilizes, is all the way installed, goes from the coaches owning it to the locker room truly owning it. And when that happens, I think that makes the difference for you in those close games that Nebraska's come up short on over the course of the last 2 years. Here's the last thing I'll say. I mentioned the Matt Rhule year 3 thing. There's a couple of things you just kind of get the benefit of the doubt to. You know what I'm saying? Like if you got a dude with Nike Air Monarchs on the grill, you let him cook a little bit, right? You let him kind of do his thing. You give him the benefit of the doubt that he probably knows what he's doing flipping those burgers. All right? You go to a barbecue joint. You see construction paper with the menu written in Sharpie. Benefit of the doubt. It's probably going to be solid for you. All right? Go to a taco spot and there's no sign over the window. You're in good company. Hole in the wall taco spot, you're right where you need to be. Matt Rhule year 3, benefit of the doubt for me. Maybe there's a couple of matchups where you say, are you sure both wins on the road at Maryland, at Minnesota? Benefit of the doubt for me for Matt Rhule year 3 with all that they're working with out there in Lincoln. Last thing I'll say, I've gone long on Nebraska, but last thing I'll say, I was in the locker room at Baylor for his 3rd year there, and I forget what our over-under win total was, but I just remember feeling so confident in the work that was being done behind closed doors and just feeling like there's no way with how dialed in this culture is, how detail-oriented this entire operation is, that we don't win a lot of football games this year. Like, we just won a bowl game that year before. It wasn't like Baylor lit it on fire the year before. They won the Texas Bowl against Vanderbilt, but like there was no doubt in my mind that Baylor would be a good football team that year, and ended up again playing for the conference title. So we got Nebraska at 9-3. What do we have Oregon at in 2025? What's the record prediction we have for Dan Lanning and his Ducks here? We'll break it down right now. Before we do that, though, make sure you are subscribed here. College football, nothing but college football all year round. If you're an Oregon fan, subscribe to the channel. Just lets us know you want more Duck content. All right, so go ahead and subscribe, and we'll make sure we have that demand or the supply to meet your demand. Dan Lanning and what he's entering into this year in Eugene is what I would call like his Kirby and Saban evolution test. We've said it a couple times, but those Bama teams under Saban, it didn't matter who they lost. You still would bank on Alabama being really freaking good. Same deal with Georgia. They have that national title run, and they're like 100 or something in returning production, or in like the mid-90s. Didn't matter. Georgia still won the national title the next year, and they did it with a different cast of characters. Oregon, by my count, has one healthy offensive returning starter. They had 2, but Evan Stewart goes down. You have 4 returning on defense. Whole new cast of characters. Can you make it work with just new faces and new pieces? Now, I don't expect a massive drop-off from a talent perspective because Dan Lanning and the staff and Marshall Malco, who's essentially the GM out there, they've done the work. Right now on this roster, you have 2 top 5 portal classes, 3 top 10 classes each of the last 3 years, and you have 2 top 5 classes on the recruiting trail the last 2 years. So, you got some good players. You don't know all their names just yet. You haven't seen all of them make plays on Saturdays just yet, but they've been out there in Eugene doing the dirty work as reserves, or maybe getting some garbage time. But the thing that's interesting about this year, this is the year where Dan Lanning's staff and Dan Lanning himself, their development, I think, will be on display. Because Dante Moore, he's a first-year starting quarterback at Oregon, but he's been there for a whole year. Emmanuel Pregnon, he's been there for a year. Kenyon Sadiq, he's a junior. He's going to play a larger role, same deal with Pregnon, but they've been there for some time. How much is a Will Stein, a Dan Lanning, a Tosh LaPoy, how much are they able to elevate their guys? Like Peyton Woodyard, he transferred over when Saban retired. He's been there for a year. Mateo Uiagalelei, he's now stepping into a larger role as a starter up front. How much better can he be? You see the evolution these guys are going to take that have been there in Eugene, and that'll tell us a lot about, I think, the internal process at Oregon. Because I mentioned the portal class. I think some people just have this idea that, Phil Knight, that swoosh, they'll write the checks to get a good team in there, right? I mean, maybe, but you still got to develop them. Still got to do the work. Like Dante Moore, probably not a free 99 acquisition, but you still got to do the work to get him ready to play and ball out when it's time to actually go. So you have that development piece paired with the task for the staff of, can you get the new faces up to speed? I mentioned DeCorian Moore, big role for him this year. True freshman, probably got to have to ask you to play right away. Malik Benson, first-year guy transferring over from Florida State. Mekhi Hughes, baller from Tulane, still got to get him right. Bear Alexander, defensive side from USC. Dylan Thieneman, all talented guys, but you still have to make it work. And that's going to fall on the staff, in my humble opinion. So we'll talk about the record for them here right now. What's the overall win total going to be at for Oregon at the end of the season? Last year, just to pat ourselves on the back a little bit, maybe just legitimize this segment a little bit for y'all if you're not an Oregon fan, or if you're watching for the first time, we had Oregon undefeated, winning the Big Ten. Both those things happen. All right, so this season, what's it going to be? Open with Montana State. Nice little dub. You don't overlook that first one based on what last year was. Remember how it was kind of a slow start, kind of an awkward start for Oregon a year ago. Would like to avoid that this year with a quarterback that's been in your system more than 5 minutes and Dante Moore. But nonetheless, think it's a win. You play Oklahoma State. If you're Dan Lanning, I think you'd love for this game to actually be in Stillwater. It's not, but you wish it was in Stillwater to get your team a little bit better resistance test early on, just my humble opinion. Think you still win that game and start out 2-0. Get a win at Northwestern. You win the game against Oregon State. Big rivalry win. Sets you up for a big one at Penn State. Whiteout game, which is one they have been praying for a while out there in Happy Valley. I think this is one where you see the overall, what I just said, talent for Oregon pop up in a way that maybe we're not talking about right now in July. I don't think that the talent disparity is all that massive between those two rosters, contrary to maybe whatever any preseason magazine would tell you right now. I think that Oregon and Penn State will actually be a tremendous matchup. I'm going to take Oregon in that one. I'll take Oregon. I think they stay undefeated and keep the good times rolling. I think you actually do beat Indiana as well. It's not knocking Sig. I think that'll be a tough one too, especially after Penn State screams letdown spot. But regardless, I think you win that game. Win the game at Rutgers. Win the game against Wisconsin. Now you go to Iowa. Here's my thing. I have a very difficult time sitting here and projecting Oregon to be undefeated 2 years in a row. That just feels like a very, very lofty prediction for us on this show. So I think you lose that game at Iowa. Scrappy outfit, tough place to play, rock fight kind of vibes. I mean, you know what you're going to get from that outfit. I think you drop that game. But how you respond will tell us a lot, too, about how Oregon is prepared to move forward here in 2025. Because in some ways now, I want to be careful how I say this, because nobody actually thinks this way in that building. If I'm an Oregon fan, I might feel this way a little bit. I wonder how much extra weight was on Oregon going into the college football playoff having a 0 in the loss column. Again, nobody in Eugene is saying, man, I wish we had lost one earlier. Nobody's saying that, but I do wonder a little bit, lose a game during the regular season, get a chance to reevaluate internally, reassess, and kind of put the pedal to the metal a little bit on terms of getting back to the basics. All I'm saying, a loss may not be the worst thing for this football team. If this season goes, I think it's going to go. And then you got a little stretch here where you got a strain. Minnesota and USC are not going to be easy outs for different reasons. Minnesota is going to be a tough outfit with PJ Fleck. Be physical, run the football. You got 4 quarters of lock-in football. I think you win that game. And then USC, I told you, I think they're going to be potent offensively. I think Lincoln Riley will dial it up. I do think you win both football games. And then you play the game at Washington, grit your teeth, buckle up. I mean, I think you win that game as well, though. I think it's going to be a very, very tough finish, but I do think you win that football game. Now, the reason why I have Oregon winning some of those games where I'm like, grit your teeth, gonna have to strain, gonna be tough. I just think Lanning has created a culture that is all of the good things that come with college football of love for one another and, doing it for the guy next to you and all those cliches, but also kind of like this professional mindset of, no, you're accountable. You have to reset. You have to bring your best every single day. It is a forget everybody but us kind of culture here in Eugene. And some of that comes with, honestly, choosing to go to Oregon. Like, Oregon recruits nationally. Choosing to go play your college football in Eugene, Oregon, that's out there, man. Like, that's college football Siberia, essentially. You're not living next to any massive cities. You're going there to play football. And so when you go there to play football for Dan Lanning and for that logo, like, that's it. There's not a whole lot of other stuff or other things to like concern yourself with, which I think honestly has led to them being able to build that culture and have that accountable mindset. And it showed itself last year post-Ohio State. You kept waiting for that letdown game for Oregon. Never came. Friday night, Purdue, on the road, still played their best football. Like, we never really saw Oregon have this falter moment until they got to the college football playoff and got boat raced by Ohio State. But all that's to say, my final record prediction for Oregon is 11-1. I think if the ceiling falls in and things just go terribly wrong, I could maybe see 9-3. 10-2 is fair, but 11-1 is my prediction, and I think they're once again in the college football playoff. So if you have not yet heard, we got a little voicemail box set up for y'all. 629-888-3931. Call the show. Give us your take. Give us whatever you want to talk about, whether it be college football or maybe college football plus. Got a nice little voicemail from one of you. Wanted to talk about Miami and also wanted to talk about getting started in sports media. A little 2-for-1 here. Go ahead and listen to this, and we'll answer it on the other side.
How you doing, JD? This is T. I'm calling from Orlando, Florida. I'm a diehard Miami Hurricane. And I have 2 questions for you. First one, why does Miami catch so many bullets, so many strays? And my second question is, I'm trying to start a podcast. What would you suggest I go about doing first? I mean, I majored in communication. I'm a Big Ten grad. Just let me know. Thanks, man. Keep doing what you do. Love it.
Good stuff, T. Appreciate you calling in again. 629-888-3931. Give us a call. Leave a voicemail. Keep it somewhat concise for us like T did so we get you on the air in a somewhat efficient fashion. But I want to answer the first part of that with the Miami question, and we'll get to the sports media side after that. So the question was, why does Miami catch so many strays, so much flack, almost this negative vibe from the college football public towards Miami? I think that's not an unfair thing to say. And when I got to thinking about this, I think that this problem is not just unique to Miami when it comes to there being strays sent their way. I think it's most big logos that just haven't won a national championship all that recently, or that haven't made the college football playoff or won their conference all that recently. And I think about it like a cheesecake. There's several layers to this thing, all right? And the first layer is what I just said, the logo. Like, whenever you have a big logo, there is a lot of individuals that don't have a big logo that feel some type of way about it. And I can say the exact same thing for myself. When I was at Cornell, guess who we hated? Harvard, Yale, Princeton. Because we assumed our own thoughts around what they thought of themselves. Like, when you have a logo like a Miami, you probably have other people on the outside thinking, they think they're so great just because they go to Miami, or because they're a Miami fan, or because they have the U or whatever. Like, it comes with the territory, whether it's true or not. Like, I met several people from those schools that I just told you I hated. Wonderful people, super nice. But in my head, I'm like, they think they're great because they went to that school or have that logo. We all kind of hate the guy that just drives the Ferrari, right? We all just kind of think our own thoughts about what they believe about themselves. Just comes with the territory, all right? So that part I can't really help you with too much. That's probably going to be there whether you win the national championship in the next 5 years or not. The logo just kind of brings some criticism with it. The second layer to this cheesecake, though, is the big fan base part of it. Now, this is the most complex because anytime there's a big fan base, there's usually pretty good volume as well to go with that fan base. Nature of the beast, we're cool with it. It's what makes college football great because you got a lot of people dialed into the sport. But with big fan base, big volume, I think it leaves the room for more misunderstanding around that fan base. Like, Texas, I think, is a great example. For the longest time, you had people talking about Texas fans in the vein of, oh, well, they think they should win the national championship every single year. Why? Because you got some fringe Texas fans, and the average fringe Texas fan base is larger than the other average, fringe fan base for whatever school because it's a smaller fan base, and they get to have a little bit more volume to themselves saying, we think we should win the national championship, where the majority is actually not shouting crazy things on Twitter. They just want to get back to being competitive, all right? And I think it's kind of the same thing for Miami. There's this thought, I think, that some people believe in the Miami fan base they should go win the national championship every single year. It's like, I don't know that the average educated, dialed-in Miami fan actually feels that way on a daily basis. Now, I'm sure it's a goal. I'm sure it's an aspiration. I think they believe that they should, if they keep recruiting at a high level, eventually get there under Mario Cristobal. But I don't think it's like, if we don't win a national championship, This is a lost season. I don't think that's actually their attitude. So the misunderstanding part of it for your fan base, with it being so massive, is another layer why Miami gets some strays. Now the third layer is also pretty complex of this cheesecake. If they're supposed to be good, they being a big logo, they being Miami, based on what they have on their roster, and then don't win the conference or don't make the playoff, everyone is very quick to say, well, it was the logo as to why they had so much preseason hype. No, dude, like just people that follow the sport for their job, that follow recruiting for their job, that follow talent acquisition in college football, liked the roster in the month of July, so they projected them to be a team that could go win the ACC. Like we sat here, I think it was a season ago, and told you Cam Ward's going to have the best season in Miami football history for quarterback. It happened. In July, a year ago, it wasn't insane to say that Miami, in that context, would be a college football playoff team. Nobody had on their bingo card it would be an abysmal defense situationally, just like nobody thought that was going to be the case. So if they underachieve, they being a Miami or a big logo, there's always this thought of, well, people overhype them just for the logo. No, like I trust the input at Miami. Why? Because I trust Mario Cristobal and the way he adds talent. So that's the third layer of this whole thing. I don't think they're ever going to have that appetite for Miami or a big logo to be accounted for their preseason projection until they actually go win a conference title or go win the national championship or whatever that hardware is. Hard to argue with the trophy. Now, the cherry on top here, and Caden Smith mentioned this last week talking about Miami, and I want to bring it up again. If a team was previously good, you get multiple reactions relative to that previous success. The first is what we already talked about. People think that, you're just entitled. You're just entitled to thinking that what you had in the 80s and the early 2000s is what you should have every single year. Therefore, stray from Miami. Therefore, negative thought about Miami. Well, in actuality, if you had success in the early 2000s and the 80s at one point in time for Miami, you're not entitled for thinking that you should have a chance to go compete for some hardware again. It's just because you saw it happen there before, so therefore you believe it can happen again. Like, it's just, I don't think that's a unfair thing to think if you're a fan of Miami. The other reaction is people saying, well, they're just going to underachieve. Yep, Miami, they're supposed to go be great because they did this in the thousands or the 80s, underachieve because they didn't go win the national championship. It's like, well, yeah, relative to the history, I suppose you could make that case, but like, does the Ray Lewis Miami Hurricanes have any bearing on Miami when they lose to Georgia Tech? No. I'm sure Ray Lewis wasn't happy about it. I'm sure Ed Reed wasn't thrilled about that whole thing. Like Andre Johnson, we know Michael Irvin, he wasn't thrilled about it, but it doesn't have any actual impact on that specific football team. So I hear that thought, but I don't think it's actually something that's all that fair. So that's my thoughts on Miami. It's a big cheesecake, brother. It's kind of the stick you draw if you're going to be a Miami fan, and it's kind of the stick you draw if you're a big fan of any massive college football logo that's recognizable in this space. Now, the podcast part of this thing is a great question. I'm glad you asked it. Couple of thoughts here, and I want to preface with this. I am by no means an expert on this. I'm very fortunate to do this for a job and get to have my own opinion on this. I would say the biggest thing that keeps people from getting into sports media and being successful in sports media is being so nervous or so hesitant to just get started. Like, I think we always want to have the perfect podcast name, got to have the right lighting, got to have the right mic, got to have the right camera. Oh, it's expensive, got to save up. Oh, but I don't have time. Just get started. Do it ugly. Do it the ugly way. Do it with your AirPod mic. Do it with your iPhone as the camera. Do it with your lamp as a lighting. Just get started, because the reality is 90% of the people that you are competing, in air quotes, against won't do it. 90%. So just get started. Get started. The other part of this is be consistent with it. I think the beautiful part about digital media and the emergence of this whole college football digital media space is it gives you access to everybody on their cell phones by way of Spotify or Apple or YouTube, and you have the opportunity to jump into someone's daily routine. And the way that you're able to do that is, again, by being consistent. Like, I'll say this for our show, we don't miss a show. And it's not because we are just so married to the game and we're just grinders about this whole thing, which I would say those parts are probably true of us as well. But like, we understand we have people that, whether it's Christmas Day, New Year's Day, if it's a Tuesday or a Thursday or a Wednesday during college football season, you expect to have this show. And so with that being your agreement and your vote of confidence in us to listen to this show on a routine basis, we're going to make sure that we are meeting that standard that we have set together to give you what you wanted. Last thing I'll say, and this is probably the most important of this entire discussion and getting started in sports media, just be real, man. It's a way easier thing to say than to do. But I had a friend of mine who does music for a living tell me this one time, and it stuck with me several years ago. He said, everybody in the space before they get started, whether it's music or whether it's content creation, everyone in the creative realm thinks that they are trying to pitch something to somebody that they will eventually like. You're always trying to figure out, wait, what are they going to like? Well, people aren't really necessarily looking for what they like so much as looking for something real and authentic. Why? Because that connects. And that's why digital media, I think, is taking off. That's why Joe Rogan's taken off. Josh Pate's taken off. That's why you have all these different voices emerging from podcast platforms, because they talk like normal people. You don't have a teleprompter in front of you reading news. You're listening to a real person talk about something they care about. And so just be authentic, be real. Don't try and copy anyone's flow or rhythm or whatever. Just like be yourself. And if you're excited about it and you care about it, you're passionate about it, that's going to connect with your people, and your people are who's going to listen to you. So, T, appreciate you calling in and asking that question and talking about your Canes, man. And let us know if you get that podcast started, brother, because we will be excited to check it out. All right. So this is a holiday for all of us. College football 26 is out for the masses. Didn't know if we'd be playing this game as early as we got to, but myself and Caden Smith, Cato, as you know, producer of the Hard Count, dude, we struck gold yesterday. Couple of college football 26 codes just by the grace of God fell in our lap, brother. We got to play that thing yesterday, both of us, man. So it was. I want to hear your thoughts on this, but it was the first thing. It was nostalgic, dude. It was special to be able to play that game again, was it not? Like that was my first thought. Is like, we're back. The drum line is rolling. I'm changing my uniforms, my playbooks. Like we're back. That was hit a nostalgia, Cato. What do you think about that?
I think the we're back part of it is definitely big. Like it's like you had a void in your life that you didn't realize was there until college football 26 filled that void. Like it felt like football season was back. It felt like week 1 was right around the corner. I know myself personally, when I opened the game up, Clemson versus LSU immediately. Like I just had to get a feel for what week 1 is going to be like. And I think, again, the beauty in the game, we can talk about the graphics look great and all the little things and the music and all the intricacies of it that they really figured out. I think the best advantage of not just playing it at this time and playing it early as well, especially, is just getting your hands on those rosters that we haven't been able to kind of see, and we have to visualize the entire offseason. Like finally getting to see the ratings matched up with the players that kind of give you an idea of what a team's going to look like, or a offense or a defense is going to look like during this season. It just gets you excited, had me fired up for sure, and just it setting the table for college football season. I think it filled a void, and it makes the season being right around the corner actually feel warranted and real.
Dude, it was crazy that we even got to play yesterday just based on our own personal story arcs. We were kind of in the same boat. Like, we both needed to get a new console to play the game. And so we're both having this conversation of like, dude, this PS5s aren't cheap these days. They're not handing those out for any low price point. So we're like, okay, when are we going to get that? At some point, we probably want to get that. But the other day, like 4 o'clock-ish in the office, get a nice little Slack message. Hey, got a couple of codes we can give away for college football 26. Like this if you're interested, from one of our coworkers. So you and I are like, yeah, bet, we're in. Like we'll shoot our shot a little bit. Ends up being a group of 3 people getting to draw straws via ChatGPT for 2 codes. And I mean, again, by the grace of God, 2 codes for the boys. And so we're sitting there with codes like, all right, well, I guess we got to get systems. And you and I both respectively pulled the trigger on a system. Wallets don't feel great because of it, but like just the build up to actually, starting that day yesterday to then getting the codes to now being able to play the game and having it out for everybody today. It was something out of a movie, Cato.
Yeah, it was impulsive. It was impulsive for sure. I had a roommate situation before. There was a console there. I bought the game, so that existed for a little bit, and now both are gone. So I was very excited for this game. Don't have a console, don't have the game. Knew we had SEC Media Days coming next week, so I was like, okay, maybe we'll hold off. Don't know how much we'll be able to even play once it drops, having to prepare for that and be there for the week. So was kind of like lukewarm, going to feel it out, see when I was going to eventually probably pull the trigger on both. Did not wake up yesterday thinking that we would do that. But when you get the game dropped on you and you don't have the system, you have to make up for it. So I feel like it was a fun impulse buy, like you mentioned. Wallets are a little bit hurt from it, but we're adults now. We have adult money. We don't have to worry about those kind of things as much as we used to when we were kids, I guess.
That was the crazy thing, is being an adult playing the game. When I played college football 25, I wasn't totally immersed in it. Like, getting to actually sit in my living room playing the new edition of the game, I was like, dude, I haven't sat down like this, like truly like this, to know I'm about to actually play a video game for an indefinite amount of time. It was like stepping into a time machine, dude. So the nostalgia hit was special. I want to hear your experience. I played with South Carolina because I was like, I want to see what Lenore Sellers is about. I want to see what this playbook is about. I want to see how fast Nicholas Harbor is. The tradition in itself was sick. How they set up Willie B. You got a sandstorm when you enter in. You got the towels in Willie B, as they have been known to have. So like all the collegeness of what I think Brandon Walker tweeted out about it. The collegeness of the game feels pretty accurate. So I loved that part of it. Dude, the game's hard. Like, I haven't really dialed in a minute here. I still have a lot to go when it comes to actually playing this game. I did South Carolina and Delaware, got 3 quarters in. It was midnight. Baby girl started crying, had to go tend to her. We were beating Delaware by a score, so if that gives you any confidence. But I was like, dude, I might kind of suck at this game. If I played any Power 4 team, I might get worked on Heisman mode. It's tough, dude. I got to put in some hours to get good at this thing.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I played the previous game a lot. Like, I don't want to talk about how many years into my dynasty I got into, but let's just say the 2030s, Caden Smith went from App State to Texas, like had a whole coaching journey on that game, but I hadn't played for a very long time. And I kind of felt the same way you did. When I played the game, it's obviously super exciting as the game opens, and just that new game feel when it's like, okay, all you're looking at all the little things that are different from last year. You're getting the new entrances. I told you before, did the Death Valley, Clemson versus LSU, watching Dabo run down the hill. Like, it was extremely exciting and hype. But then you play the game and you haven't played in a while, and you might not be what you used to. And I was like, this isn't hitting as much from me being good at the game as I remember. So I feel like I had that same feeling as you did. And I feel like from the articles and some of the stuff you were seeing coming out of the rollout for the game, they were making certain aspects of the game more realistic, which means a little bit more difficult. So I feel like the combination of both of us not playing for a while from the 25 game versus playing this 26 game, a little bit of a learning curve. I think the more hours we put in, the better we'll get. We'll see how many hours we get in just based on adult life. And obviously you having a little one now might be a little bit more tricky. But I think at the end of the day, it's all going to be about how much time people like us who are a little bit more casual in the video game space put time into it. Because I have a former teammate, Darrington Evans, who plays for the Buffalo Bills right now, who's a streamer. Like, he plays the game all the time. And watching him play at a much higher level than either of us probably ever will. But he was playing the last game up until the new one came out. Like, he was making videos, this will be the last time I played 25 until playing 26. And obviously a person like that doesn't skip a beat. So the gamers, there's probably people you can go to that can give you a lot more detailed of a breakdown of the ins and outs and what's different and that high level. But for the casuals like us, definitely just fun to see the little new nuances. I started a little bit of a dynasty. You have a lot more outfits you can drip your coach out in, which is nice. Recruiting's a little bit different. So there's a bunch of little things in the different game modes I can't wait to unpack. But I think, like you said before, more hours we put in, the better we'll get for sure here in the future.
It was like the dynamic passing of it all, playing the ball in the air. No, that's a big thing. You have to actually turn and like try and intercept the ball. If you're a DB, you can't just like play through the hands. It feels like they're really trying to dial in the likeness of it, which is awesome, but it also requires a good amount more, I'd have to believe, of commitment. But it's going to be fun, dude. I want to say one more thing before we rock and roll, and I want to get your final take. There was a part of me as I'm playing that game, it's like it's midnight, did the whole sign up for EA account thing, and I'm getting like, into this game a little bit. My wife's asleep in the other room with our baby, and I'm like, I'm about to be 29 years old. Is this my life? Like, am I that guy? And if I am, that's fine, but I'm still sitting with the idea of being like video game guy, because I never played any other video games. It was just NCAA when it was out. And then when it wasn't out anymore, I was like, well, okay, I guess got some more hours on my hands. Now that I'm a grown man with a family, I'm like, I gotta work my way into this thing if this is going to be my my lot in life. Very, very bizarre. Very, very. I loved the game. It was awesome. I have nothing but good things to say about the game. It's just it's a new but familiar feel. You know what I'm saying? New context, familiar feel. Take a second.
Yeah, it feels like a little bit of a watershed moment for you for sure. I think that when you're a grown man playing video games, it's good to take a step back and give yourself some perspective for sure. I think at the end of the day, you and me, we can say this is for work. You know,
Legit.
We could play every single game of week 1 and justify it and make us feel better about the game playing we did and can translate over to work. So I think that's a little bit more of an excuse, but it's a great hobby. It's taken off. I know for you and me personally, I know I joked previously with the roommate I have that we called the PS5 just the college football 25 machine. Like that's the only reason we got legit. It was to play that game. And it's a little ridiculous to do that, but it's ridiculous how long this game was gone and how important I think it is now to the players and just year after year, the cycle of college football. I think it's really going to be a bigger and bigger deal year after year. So it's an exciting thing. I think you shouldn't have many moments that strip the excitement away from you. It's nice for a reality check every now and then, but you never know. A couple of years down the line, maybe the little one, you're playing some family-friendly games. There's some things down the line where hopefully the long-term investment pays off and the time you spend playing the game pays off for our show, our audience, and everything beyond. So don't be hard on yourself, man.
Well, I needed that. I think I needed that a little bit, just coming off of the first experience back. So that's good to hear, man. But yeah, nothing else. It's a good study tool. Learn a little about the rosters, learn about some other teams maybe we haven't done as much work on. It'll be a content tool and a study tool, if nothing else. But man, I'm excited for Media Days next week, bro. That's going to be a blast. If you haven't yet subscribed to the podcast feed, make sure you do that. A ton of content coming there, coming here on the On3 YouTube channel. For myself, Jody PicKell, for Caden Smith chopping it up on the mic and on the ones and twos. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We will keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time.